The Dutch, Homo Netherlandensis, best known for their tall stature, wooden clogs, and of course their famous obsession with the bicycle that extends even to their royal family. Today we will put the Dutch and their bicycles to the test in the favorite game of femboys, bronies, and Nazi sympathizers, Hearts of Iron 4. All frontline battalions will be made up of bicycle infantry. That means no leg infantry, no motorized, mechanized artillery, or even tanks. Support companies, however, are allowed. I've put more hours into Hearts of Iron 4 than I should willingly admit to friends and family for the risk of being institutionalized, and for this reason I will be shaking things up a bit, and I will be trying out a mod called the Netherlands Reworked Monarchist Tree. Let us begin. Historical AI is turned on, so I knew I had until the latter half of 1939 to create the foundation for a powerful Netherlands. My first priority was to establish a strong industrial base to support the military. Second was to unify the lowlands. To this end, it should be noted, the Netherlands does not start off in a good spot. They've been collecting negative national spirits like they were Infinity Stones, and Thanos is looking to go round 2. The economy was in shambles, the industrial base crippled, the army didn't know which end of their rifles made the boom sound, and the navy wasn't so bad, except all the dockyard workers were at home and refusing to come into work until frikandel rations were increased. Fixing these 3 economic debuffs, die Crisisjaren, Werkverschaffing, and Landbouw, became my first priority. These national spirits are fixed to the focus tree and eventually turn positive. By following the economic tree, I managed to power through the necessary focuses a lot faster than I thought it would take, which was good news for me because the clock was ticking and I had a limited window to unify the lowlands. With the economy fixed, it was time for the next step in my master plan. Overthrowing the government and placing a royal in charge of our future, which is as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1. Vote of no confidence for the current government, despite their turning our faltering economy based entirely off tulip auctions into a booming modern economy. 2. Let our generals install an interim military junta fueled by their frustration at being provided inadequate support. 3. Deal with some pesky internal squabbling by banning political parties and pushing dissenting rivals out of nearby windows. There you go, folks. I could now restore the monarchy in full. The only question I had was who to place on the throne. The obvious choice was someone from the de jure royal house of Orange-Nassau, but I wasn't here for the sensible approach, so we decided instead to coronate the Hohenzollern Prince of Prussia, Frederick Hendrik. I wouldn't get too comfortable with old Frederick, though. With a newly crowned monarch, it was time to focus on reuniting the lost lands of Belgium and Luxembourg. Before we get into that, though, I should show you my division template that I have decided upon. I'm not fully up to date on the current metas, so I attempted to do some research on Reddit, and, well, honestly I left more confused than enlightened. I decided just to use my superior Sigma brain to come up with my own meta. 10 width bicycle infantry frontline battalions, which would allow me to cover a wider front line with my limited manpower, while gaining more use from the support companies I use, artillery, anti-air, engineers, and recon, which will be replaced with rangers later on. I declared war on Belgium, with the justification of bringing Flanders back into the fold. The Belgians were seemingly surprised by this despite my months of posturing and didn't properly garrison the entire border. I take advantage of this by pinning the Belgian border units down and rushing my swift troops through the gaps. 12 days after the first Dutch soldier crosses the border, we have captured most of their cities and surround the capital of Brussels for a final assault. With the fall of Brussels, the Belgians capitulate. We take all their land and African colonies for ourselves. The Netherlands began integration measures with the annexed regions of Vlaanderen and Wallonie, giving us 2 more core provinces. Prince Hendrik meets with Luxembourg officials, and behind closed doors, a deal is struck, and Luxembourg merges peacefully into the Verenigd Koninkrijk der Nederlanden. The United Provinces. Much like an anime protagonist, we haven't even reached our final form yet, don't you worry. While securing the internal interests and uniting the lowlands, Dutch construction workers and military engineers have been hard at work building fortifications across the border with Germany. My strategy was to extend the Maginot Line through the lowlands so when Germany declares war on us, we can join the Allies and present the mustachioed villain with a solid wall of concrete and steel from the Alps to the Atlantic. Germany declares war on Poland, kicking off a new world war with the Allies. The German High Command, seeking to sweep past the French Maginot Line by declaring war on us, the soft underbelly of Western Europe. What they found was anything but soft. Wave after wave of Germans crashed against the strong Dutch lines. In the north, they have some success, but here is where the bicycles begin to prove their worth. In Nijmegen, the fortification levels are so heavy that the units there are never attacked, leaving them fresh to reinforce and replace depleted units elsewhere. Bicycle divisions have a 6.4 kilometers an hour movement speed to a leg infantry's 4 kilometers an hour, making them able to respond quickly to reinforce the front, thus stemming the flow of German infantry and panzers alike, even though famed Erwin Rommel was unable to punch through the Dutch defenses. Unlike the ground campaign, the air campaign is not going so well. Swarms of German bombers are trying to blast our defenses. Our anti-air guns, both in our mobile divisional form and our static defense, are fighting to dull the edge of the German superior air power, but we just don't have enough planes of our own to match their air power, and none of the other allies seem to even care about us, so for now, this is all going to look a bit red. November 25th, 1939. The unexpected death of our young King Frederick nearly threw the newly formed kingdom into disarray. A replacement was needed to stabilize the country immediately. To this end, a familiar face offered their service. The old Kaiser, Wilhelm II. What will this mean for the future of the Netherlands is uncertain, but for now, an experienced hand at the rudder is what is needed. March 3rd, 1940. 1.2 million German casualties inflicted by the Dutch Landmacht. Meanwhile, only 79,000 brave Dutchmen have fallen. The German units are battered, unorganized, low on morale and equipment. It was time to play the Uno reverse card on them. The Dutch go on the offensive. At first, just light probing attacks, but as the Germans fall, we push harder. To the dismay of German command and the surprise of the Allies, we gained ground quickly.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Dutch bicycle divisions have penetrated deep into the heart of the Third Reich and begin to encircle German divisions. August 27th, 1940. 6 divisions of the Landmacht break through Berlin's defenses and occupy the city. In celebration, the 6th Divizia Bicycle Division is nicknamed the Berlin Boys and awarded the unit citation the Order of the Sword. During this time frame, Wilhelm has been busy imprisoning Nazi sympathizers, making contact with old Prussian friends, inviting German generals to turn cloak, and working on a secret project behind closed doors. February 26, 1941. With most of Germany already in my hands, it is the fall of Vienna that finally triggers a full German capitulation. Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, and Italy still hold the Axis together, but without Germany, it will be a short-lived resistance. I concentrated my forces in Eastern Europe, leaving France to battle down the Italian peninsula. April 29th, 1941. Italian monarchists overthrow Mussolini and bring an end to World War II. In the peace conference, it was very important to make sure that a unified German state does not exist, so I could progress further down my own focus tree. With a 61% war score, I get more say than all the other allies combined, so I snatch up all German territory and use my last points to claim the German Navy and take most of Hungary. I meant to puppet Hungary, but I can release him as a puppet later anyway, don't worry about it. A few months after the war ended, Wilhelm began to enact his secret project, starting with the signing of the Treaty of Utrecht, finalizing the division of the Third Reich. The United Provinces under Wilhelm's control would retain control of most of the northern German states, but Austria, Bavaria, Württemberg, Schleswig-Holstein, Poland, and Czechoslovakia would all get a piece of the pie. Yeah, do you like my German accent? Very lovely. The United Provinces of the Netherlands was once again renamed to the Noordelijke Germaanse Federatie, gaining me cores in all German states I had retained. A new faction was formed, the Kaiserreich Pact, to which I began to invite my neighbors, Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, Austria, Bavaria, Württemberg, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland.
Nice.
We fully integrated our Dutch East Indies puppet during this time after lowering their independence by trading them convoys. Poland gives us Danzig. A Dutch naval buildup began. A lot of things happened during this second interwar period. The Dutch were stronger than ever, with allies and an empire to call their own once again. But we are far from done. February 14th, 1944. The USA wasn't joining the Allies for some reason, I don't know why, and my opportunity to make war with the Allies was at hand. Except my ally Romania had different plans. In an absolutely supreme display of big brain intelligence, Romania decided to drag our alliance into war with the Soviet Union. I panic. I begin assigning armies to the various fronts. It's late. I'm tired, maybe a little tipsy. Either way, I managed to entirely miss putting an army on my Prussian front until after I have joined the war. In the end, I managed to get units assigned to the four fronts of the war: the Finnish Soviet front, the Baltic front, the Romanian front, and the Turkish front. Some ground is lost before my units are in place, but I almost immediately go on the offensive. My fear is a war of attrition with the Soviet Union won't go in my favor. It's also really late. The game is also very late, and I still have a lot of ground to cover. In the Romanian theater, I push aggressively to begin encirclements of Soviet divisions. I am somewhat surprised how well my divisions do on the offensive. One encirclement after another. My numerous, but small, bicycle divisions do very well on the Russian front. Make a couple of breakthroughs, then link back up behind enemy lines, creating a pocket. Smash the pocket, and voila! That's dozens of Russian divisions no longer manning the front. Rinse and repeat. Yeah, I know, this is not groundbreaking discoveries by any means. Every Hearts of Iron 4 player knows how to make encirclements. But I was surprised how well my little Dutch bicycle Kaskopens were managing to do it. Everyone knows of the Wehrmacht's early success using their blitzkrieg tactics. But blitzkrieg comes with a fatal flaw. Much like the blue-collar workers of America, they relied too heavily on unnecessarily large, heavy, diesel-chugging vehicles, so that every penny petrol prices rise, they despair, they wail, they cry out for a savior. The Dutch, though, they have their fiendish bicycles, vehicles powered by strong legs and even stronger resolve. Sorry, basically what I'm trying to say is I don't need oil to make my army work very well. That's all I'm trying to say is, I don't have to rely on the oil, so we're doing good. Anyway, we do well. We do what the Wehrmacht couldn't do. We take Leningrad. We take Stalingrad. We take Moscow, naming a new divizia the Moscow Mules. Of course, the Soviet Union moves their industry behind the Ural Mountains and refuses to capitulate, but the borscht has gone stale, the vodka has been spilt. With no threats on our western border, we can continue deep into the heart of communist Russia until they have no choice but to accept Dutch rule and Dutch culture. The mighty bear of the East, at last, capitulates. In the peace treaty to follow, I noticed Sweden has deposed their king and returned to being a democracy. because they use their war score to fuck us by releasing nations as democracies not subservient to the Kaiser-like pact, but independent and free. I still managed to secure some land for my faithful allies, Finland, Romania, and Turkey, before I puppet what remains of Russia that Sweden hasn't stolen from me. After my war with the USSR, I needed to pivot quickly to take on the Allies, like I had originally planned on doing. Unlike my war with the USSR, there was no single campaign front on which to push back the Allies. This war was instead fought on multiple fronts and even at sea. So I've structured this section of the video to talk about each front individually and more quickly. France. I declared war on France. They capitulated. Okay, yeah. Shame on me for using a harmful stereotype. A little bit of fighting did happen, and then they capitulated 20 days later. Czechoslovakia. A sad day for Wilhelm when the Czechs left the Kaiser-like pact so shortly after joining. We promised them friendship and protection. They even got to keep Sudetenland. I was going to quote a Czech proverb here, but I took one look at this and said, no thank you, I have not had nearly enough Pilsner or Quells for that shit. The Sudetenland hills were well fortified, but they didn't have enough divisions to man the entire border, and the bicycles once again slipped in and subdued the foe. Romania. The betrayal of Romania struck the hearts of every Dutchman like their own personal Judas. After we had so gallantly defended them and granted them lands, truly, a knife in the back hurts more than a knife to the front. At least, metaphorically speaking, I suppose either way you've just been stabbed and that's no good, but either way, they abandoned us for our enemies, and they were put down swiftly. Bulgaria would take administrative responsibility for their lands. Italy. I put an army on the Italian front, gave them an order to push down the peninsula, and then mostly ignored them. Moving on. The Middle East. In the Near and Middle East, I started out pushing towards Egypt, freeing the Allied colonies from oppression. I ended up pulling back and using my armies in the Middle East purely for defense, however. I just saw no real gain to be had in Northern Africa, but a lot of potential manpower wastage that I would need later on. The United Kingdom. Now we come to my main adversary in the Allies, the UK. Their army was everywhere, attacking me on continental Europe and across the Seven Seas in our various colonies. That being said, if you've ever played Hearts of Iron 4, or, well, even know that much about World War II, you will know that it is the Royal Navy that is the UK's greatest asset. In order to invade the British Isles, I would have to seize the English Channel from the Royal Navy. To do this, I had built and stolen my own navy, consisting of several hundred small destroyers, a couple dozen light and heavy cruisers, and a sprinkling or handful of battleships, but perhaps most importantly was the thousands of naval bombers stationed along the coast. I enjoy a perverse sense of pleasure from each British capital ship that I sink.
I was just looking for the sports channel, Gary.
The dopamine receptors in my brain firing at full capacity every time they lose a boat and I hear that sound effect. June 2nd, 1946, I launched my very own Operation Sea Lion into Norwich, which fails. November 3rd, 1946, I launched an even better Operation Sea Lion, this time into Plymouth and Portsmouth, and second time's the charm. We're doing it. The bicycles encounter some resistance, but we push steadily through the British Isles, cornering many of their divisions in London. On November 27th, the Dutch landmacht break through London's defences. The 24th Division is nicknamed the London Louts in celebration. The British and the Allies surrender to Dutch supremacy. In the peace deal, I take all of coastal northern France and the southern coast of England. This way I can name the English Channel to the Dutch Channel. I puppet the rest of the UK, grant my allies some lands for their assistance. Sweden still being a dick, trying to release countries as democracies. I puppet France, Italy, India, Czechoslovakia, Mexico, Eastern Canada. The world is looking far better at this point. Really, only one goal and obstacle remain to me. The retaking of New Amsterdam, or what the Americans like to call New York. War with the United States of America was to be my ultimate challenge. The giant is fully awake. I will be fighting them at their strongest. I will use my puppets of Canada and Mexico to overcome the Americans' greatest strength, their isolation and naval supremacy in the Pacific and Atlantic. No midway disasters for the Dutch, no. We will bike straight into their heartland. On March 27th, 1947, Wilhelm declares war on the United States of America. Uruguay, somehow still in the Allies, invites America into the Allies, but no matter. Of what import could Uruguay be in this clash of titans? I had thought to myself. My men advanced. In the south, Dutch bicycle divisions speed across Texas faster than the Americans can respond. In the north, we begin to push into New England. A stalemate. The Americans check my advance. Then the unthinkable happened. They began to push me back. We build more railways and supply depots for our severely attrited troops. The front stabilized. Inch by inch, the Dutch slowly advanced. Then they were pushed back again. Every step into America is paid for with the blood of proud Dutch bicyclists. We cannot sustain these losses for long. America will grind us down. We have to finish this. Depression begins to set in. Would this whole campaign be for naught? Was the Dutch Bicycle Division judged to be unworthy and incapable of taking the mantle of the world's greatest military? Much as in life, it was during my darkest moment. Then I saw the light. Bicycles had broken through the stalemate in California. They rushed up the coast, taking San Francisco. The American infantry were too slow to keep up with the new advance. Too much corn syrup and extra large fountain drinks, some say. This was how I would untangle the American Gordian knot, with speed. Before long, we had advanced through Oregon into Washington. Our units tried to redeploy, and we took advantage of that, attacking throughout the South. Okay, real talk. This war has been exhausting to play through. We are winning. We are pushing forward. However, we pay for this with millions of lives. My manpower is draining. I end up having to scrap divisions and fill in my armies with volunteers from the various members of the Kaiserreich Pact. I'll give it to the Americans, even when they are losing and cornered, they make me feel like the loser. It was 1949, and the Americans only controlled a portion of their once great nation. The world, and every human living, was war-weary. With a final gasp, the United States of America capitulated. But the war isn't over yet. The Allies haven't capitulated despite the fall of America. Uruguay has taken up the mantle as leader of the Allies. How many more of our sons must die in this war? A new option is presented to Wilhelm to end the war. Tactical bombers fly over the Uruguayan city of Salto. A single bomb is dropped, whose impact will shake the very foundations of humanity. And then I dropped 2 more just to be sure, and we won. We reclaimed New Amsterdam as a premier colony, puppet a few things, you know, the drill. What's important is that the supremacy, the absolute supremacy of the Dutch Bicycle Division has been irrevocably etched into the history as the ultimate fighting force. Thank you so much for watching. Really, thanks. If you've managed to get this far, I really do appreciate it. This was fun to make, a bit experimental for me. I haven't made a video in, I think, over 6 years now. I hope to learn some new editing techniques and fix some of my mistakes, and I'd like to make a few more videos, and then we'll see what happens from there. What goes on, yeah, something like that. I'm not going to edit that out. F*** you. Bye.